I'm Yvonne Hamoud, registered social worker and owner of New Moon Counseling, but out of the office, I'm a mom, wife, daughter, sister, and friend. Join me each week as I sit with a special guest to discuss everyday things that impact our mental health. We'll be chatting about everything from mental health and relationships to media and current events, as well as personal experiences and reflections, all in the hopes of normalizing our humanness and helping you see that you're not alone. This is Outside the Therapy Room. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Outside the Therapy Room. Today is our very first mini solo episode of season 2. And I wanted to kind of talk really quickly about something that I've been hearing a lot from clients in the therapy room. But it's also been something that I've been noticing in myself, which is feeling kind of low, unmotivated, maybe feeling a little bit more drained or lacking in energy around this time of the year. So usually around February, we might kind of feel a dip in our motivation. And I kind of just wanted to address it because it has been, like I said, something that I've been noticing for myself. I'm kind of off of routine. My exercise routine hasn't kind of come back to what it normally is. I'm feeling drained and lack of energy and kind of unmotivated to get out of the house. I kind of just want to stay inside and be warm. And I know a lot of folks may be experiencing that too. And that can kind of show up in many different ways and can impact our emotions in many ways if we are wanting to kind of just be more isolated. So that is our discussion today. And I kind of want to explain and normalize why that happens. So normally around like October, November, at least for me in my practice, we start talking about seasonal affective disorder because we're getting into the colder, earlier darkness that's kind of starting to happen. And that naturally is going to bring up some low mood. During that time, kind of like November, December, there can be kind of like a mix of what we hear in the therapy room, where it can be dread for the longer nights or darkness throughout the day, or we can hear kind of excitement for the holidays and the joyous season and socializing more. All of these things, or there's kind of these two kind of polarizing views that can sometimes exist with different people. And if we look at it that way, sometimes we might be feeling, certain low moods to the cold, the kind of gross muddiness outside from the snow. But we are still engaging, or some of us may be engaging in social interaction. So there's still holiday parties and we're gathering up with friends. All of these things are happening, or we're looking forward to the actual holiday season or the week of the holiday season. We're excited for a time off. We're excited for presents. We're excited for kind of like being around family or friends. And these are things that can kind of help us get through the yuckiness of that time of year in terms of the season and the weather. So a lot of that can sometimes happen. So we end up, wishing for colder weather. We can sometimes be wishing for snow because we want it to be a white Christmas. And we might also be, again, excited to start participating in winter activities. And so we're looking forward to tobogganing. We might be, calling out for snow so we can go on the ski hills or start snowboarding or doing all of these winter activities. And because it's still pretty fresh, it's maybe, December, we're going into our second month of possibly having consistent snow. That can, be, again, a moment where we're feeling a level of excitement. Then usually around January, after the holiday season, we can kind of find, again, two kind of different opinions or feelings. One can be kind of kind of like a relief of the holiday season being over. We don't have social expectations or need to socialize so much, or needing to kind of not spend any time at home because we're out with family or with friends or at this party. And so some of us can be really looking forward to just having cozy time at home. And so In January, we might actually be really happy that now there aren't as many plans and we get to kind of come back into our routine. For those of us who really are dependent on a routine, that kind of getting back into work routine, school routine, that can feel really comforting because there's a sense of predictability, there's a sense of structure, and that can feel really safe for us. And then on the other hand, we have kind of like grieving the holiday season, kind of now finding that you're feeling maybe lonelier than you were during the holidays because of the lack of social events. Maybe there is more fear or worry or regret when our credit card statement comes in January for all of our December purchases. And we can end up experiencing maybe a little bit more anxiety, worry, and some depression. Again, it's cold, it's getting dark way earlier in the day. All of these things are happening. So sometimes we can feel a mix of both of those, where we can feel a sense of relief, but also like, ugh, I kind of miss getting out of the house. So all of these things are kind of happening. And then come February, we are now a few months in. And although the it's not getting as dark, or it's not getting dark as early as it was previously, there is still the fact that we kind of have lost like the excitement towards winter. We kind of want it to go away. It's the coldness and the snow is getting in the way of us being able to practice some activities, some self care, grounding activities like going outside for a walk, or wanting to go out and spend time with friends. And, like sometimes the drive is a pain, or we don't want to have to load up the kids with all their winter gear just to go and spend a couple times at a friend's house. And so there is a lot of that kind of starts coming up in February. And so yeah, that's again like we're feeling down, unmotivated, heavy, or just like low energy in February. And so if you have been harder on yourself lately, if everything kind of feels a little slower, if getting out of bed or starting a task feels a little bit more difficult for you, then hopefully this episode is able to normalize and validate those feelings and experiences for you. And we're going to be talking a little bit about how biologically and psychologically, what's actually happening in our bodies, and hopefully ending off with some gentle ways that you can support your nervous system through this season. So the really important thing I want to say, because this is something I hear from clients all the time, is, oh, I'm being so lazy. You are not being lazy. You are not broken. Your body's responding to its environment right now. And this is a time where we can practice a lot of gentleness and self-compassion. So why is February so hard? Again, like I kind of described, one of the biggest factors is light. Our brain relies on sunlight to kind of regulate our mood and chemicals like serotonin that exist through our body. Serotonin is called our happy hormone because it does kind of help foster more of those happy moods that come up in us. And so if we don't have any sunlight, then we have a low serotonin levels in our body. And so sunlight really helps to kind of regulate those serotonin levels in us. In February, right now it's actually a sunny day, but sometimes there are more cloudy days. And so we're really kind of craving that sunshine. So less sun, lower serotonin, a lower vitamin D, and therefore low mood. So, especially in where we live, we experience long, dark winters with reduced sunlight exposure for many months. And that can take its toll on us. In our first season, we talked about seasonal affective disorder and we talked about light therapy. If maybe some of you already have kind of a light therapy lamp next to you that's able to kind of mimic the light from the sun. Also like spending some time outside, even in your car on a sunny day, even though it's cold, you might not want to actually be standing outside, but getting some sunlight in any kind of way that feels comfortable for us is going to be important. I also want to normalize. I did a little bit of research here, and 2 to 3% of Ontarians experience seasonal affective disorder, and that's from CMHA. CMHA also says that about 15% experience winter blues. And so, if you are feeling lower this winter, it's not rare. It's actually very common and something that we can prepare for as we approach the winter months. So again, why does February feel especially worse? Well, it's been months that we've been in low light. The cold reduces movement and social activity. Again, we've had a couple big snowstorms here in the Waterloo region, and it's gotten in the way of plans. We've had a lot of cancellation during big snowstorms. We are kind of stuck in the house. Maybe we have mobility issues, or, for some of our friends who have physical disabilities, they might not be able to go outside and shovel such heavy amount of snow. So then we're literally locked into our house. We don't have transportation out. Um, so that gets in the way of us being able to engage in social activity. Not to mention, the cold can increase chronic pain for some folks. So if we spend long times outside, like again, going for a walk around the block, if that ends up causing pain in our joints, in our nerves, in our body in any way, that's not going to be something we're going to go and do all the time. And so again, this kind of weather and this temperature that we're experiencing right now does impact our mobility and our social activity. And then we in Canada can sometimes have longer winters. Right? My son the other day came to me and said, I can't wait for it to be March because it's spring in March and then we're not going to have winter anymore. And me and my oldest had to explain to him, like, just because we have the day where spring begins doesn't necessarily mean that the weather's suddenly going to shift into spring like weather. And we might still have snow. We might still have freezing cold weather up until April, which sometimes happens. And so that is, again, an unfortunate thing for us who live here. And so motivation then is naturally going to be impacted. So our nervous system is responding to environment, less light, more cold, more time indoors. um, our system shifts towards like conservation, conserving our energy, or slowing down so that we don't end up overworking ourselves or, completely draining our energy. And so think of it as a biological wintering response, similar to how some animals hibernate in the winter. And sometimes having this mentality doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a potato on the couch all winter. You can still do things, but hopefully you're doing it with more understanding as to what's actually happening in your body. And you're able to do things maybe with a little bit more self-compassion than, completely being really, really hard on yourself, because that's not going to be as helpful. So that's why I want us to maybe normalize the emotional experience that's happening to us as we're going through what feels like a very long February. And so, like I've said numerous times, it makes sense if you're feeling more tired, less motivated, maybe even less social. If you're feeling a little slower or like sloth-like, if you're feeling heavily, like maybe you're feeling your emotions a little heavier. I know I've been quicker to tears this season than I have in the past, and I think it is just so much is happening in the world also that's impacting a lot of these feelings as well. You might find it harder to focus. You might be craving comfort or rest. And so, again, maybe your sense of comfort and rest is to lay down on the couch, catch up on a show. There's also been a lot of amazing shows out there. We just finished Stranger Things, and there was another one. Oh, Heated Rivalry was amazing. So, we might kind of want to engage in more comforting, kind of more restful practices just for our body because we feel fatigued, maybe oversleepy. So kind of removing the shame from that. You're not failing, you're just adapting to this kind of new place that we're in. So, for tools, like I mentioned, light exposure, morning light exposure is one of the strongest mood regulators. Open up those windows, get the sunshine coming into your space. And that's going to help with the serotonin and just your regular circadian rhythms at that time. And then also things that you can practice if you are able is maybe introducing a morning walk or maybe sitting and having your coffee near the window. Maybe opening up your blinds immediately or leaving them open before you go to bed. So then that way you're able to kind of see the sunshine as you're waking up. And like I mentioned, you can always purchase a light therapy lamp. Gentle movement is also going to be important. And gentle movement for me, my kind of script is like, oh, I haven't gotten into like my exercise routine. Like, what the heck is happening? But I really need to kind of reframe that into more gentle. Right now, maybe I don't have the energy to do a full strength workout, but I can do gentle stretching right now. I can maybe do some squats while I'm making dinner. Maybe I'm able to, with my kiddos, do some movement like dancing before bed or anything that kind of just moves your energy. 10-minute walk, stretching, yoga, um, dancing, jumping around with your kiddos or by yourself, chasing your dog, like anything that's going to just get your body moving is going to be really important. The other thing is maybe recognizing your expectations for yourself and practicing self compassion. Are you having really high expectations for yourself in this season? Is that actually realistic to how your body is feeling right now, given all the things that we've already talked about? So maybe lowering those expectations to ones that are a little bit more realistic. And that can look like having more flexible routine in your schedule. Having space for flexibility is going to also remove pressure that you have to complete all of these things. Maybe it means waking up slightly earlier so you can have a slower morning so you're not feeling as rushed, especially for me getting the kids awake, changed, and out of the house for school can be all happening and it feels really rushed. And so, kind of trying to slow your pace in the mornings could be helpful. And then also having small goals. We can again, have a high expectation for ourselves and set these huge, goals that may be really hard for us to actually maintain or even accomplish in the short period of time that we might give ourselves. So try to break those big goals into smaller tasks or smaller goals so that we feel a sense of achievement. And that's going to help us with our motivation as well. And stay connected. Honestly, I have been so lucky to have a lot of a couple of our teammates at work do a book club that we do virtually, but that is honestly a time that I look forward to so that we're able to kind of connect about a book and also trying to find ways to engage with other people in your group. So maybe coffee dates, maybe text check-ins. Maybe you're really wanting to go for a walk, but it's too cold outside. So can you go for a walk somewhere indoors, like the mall, or finding like an indoor track that you can kind of call up a friend and you guys can chit chat while you're going for a walk. And that kind of, checks off two things off of your list. Or finding ways to have low energy connections. Maybe that means calling up a friend and saying, hey, I'm coming over with some coffee and my PJs, and we can kind of just connect while we watch our show. And a lot of the time, there's not too much show watching that happens. A lot of the time, we are actually engaging in conversations and connections during that time. So find flexible ways for both you and for the people in your social group so that you're still able to have those important moments of connection. Not nature exposure is also a huge thing. I had a client say to me, like, I just want to get my feet on grass. Well, we can't do that right now. So what else is something that's going to help you connect to nature? Maybe it's going to a nursery around you and looking at the plants, touching plants, kind of being surrounded by plants because unfortunately, again, we can't get that outside. Maybe it's noticing the winter scenery. I love my drive to the kids' schools after a big snowfall because the trees have the snow on top and it just looks so pretty. And so trying to notice those winter scenic moments and see the joy in how beautiful that may look. Get fresh air breaks. So open up that window, get some fresh air, breathe some of that in, and then close your window back up and stay cozy in your car. Open up a window in the house just to let some air, fresh air circulate around your house. Those are going to be ways that you're kind of feeling this natural exposure. And it can also be ways you can incorporate grounding exercises. The other thing that's important is to respect your energy cycles. Instead of fighting low energy, work with it. Plan tasks around your energy. Does your energy usually die down closer to the end of the day? What kind of tasks can you maybe then put earlier in the day? Or what tasks can you maybe put later in the day when you know that it's a lower energy time? And this again helps just with the goal orientation. It helps with that motivation. And through all of this, self-compassion is going to be key. And allow rest without guilt. If you're finding a low energy day and you had like a shopping list of things you had to do like that evening, well, maybe right now my body is telling me that I need rest. Am I able to maybe do one or two things on the list to help myself out for tomorrow and then maybe finish the rest of the tasks tomorrow? And that also helps you to just check in that moment. Because all of this, again, is important to kind of normalize that it's okay for us to be feeling this way. For some of us, it might actually be more than the winter blues. So if your symptoms last most of the days, if they interfere with functioning or include feelings of hopelessness, that might be more than just seasonal mood changes. And so getting support can be really helpful. Seasonal affective disorder is a recurrent form of depression that occurs only in the winter months. So if that's been how you're feeling, you can contact a therapy practice close to you. Us at New Moon Counseling are accepting new clients. You can also talk to your family doctor. You can also talk to maybe a pastor or a friend or any kind of support if you're not quite comfortable coming into therapy, but there is support out there. And so just make sure that you're asking for it. Yeah. I talked really fast through that whole thing, but I think hopefully you're able to take some nuggets from that and apply it to your day if that's been how you've been feeling lately. And hopefully too, this has been maybe a little bit more validating if you've been questioning why something's wrong with me, why am I feeling this way this month or at this time of the year. So maybe today you take one small step. Maybe you open a window. Right now, if you're listening to this while you're driving, maybe you step outside just for a couple breaths of fresh air. Maybe you move your body gently or you're speaking kindly to yourself. I really want to invite you to at least do one small thing today, and then continue it on for this week. And you don't need to fight with winter. You can learn how to kind of move through it. I wasn't born in Canada. I was born in Peru, a warm climate country. And so coming here was a shock. It was, again, moments of excitement, but we don't need to fight with winter. We can find joy in it. We can find, things that we can enjoy from it, and kind of learn how to move through it. And the last reminder is that your nervous system is responding to what is happening in its environment. And so please be gentle with yourself, practice that self-compassion, and just kind of, be mindful of the kind of narrative or story that you're telling yourself from how you're feeling right now. So if this episode resonated for you, then feel free to share it with someone who you maybe also notice is kind of feeling down this season. And tune in next week for our episode with our guest. We're going to be talking about pelvic floor care. And then follow us on Outside the Therapy Room Pod. And you can always email us as well at hello@newmooncounseling.com if you have any ideas for future episodes, if you have any questions or comments about any episode that you've heard before. And hopefully this wasn't too overwhelming with me talking super fast, but I hope you got some information that was meaningful to you, and we will see you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to Outside the Therapy Room. This podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you reside in Ontario and are interested in working with one of our therapists, please visit our website in the show notes. If you reside outside of Ontario, a quick Google search or search through Psychology Today will help you find a therapist near you.